Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today we're talking about the spell Sanctuary.
Indeed, this is a little first level spell. It's Cleric Artificer, Peace Domain, Oath of Devotion, Oath of Redemption, and the Genie Warlock. I'll get this. It's kind of interesting on Genie Warlocks, as in worse, but they put it there for a reason. So this is a first level bonus action cast time, 30-foot range support spell. It takes verbal magic material components. That material component is a small silver mirror. Cute. It has a duration of a minute, and notably no concentration, to my knowledge. I'm looking at the spell description on D&D Beyond, and I don't see I don't see concentration attached to it. So, yeah,
I'm looking
right.
at it on cavernsandcreatures.com, and I also don't see concentration.
Perfect. So we know it has to be perfectly accurate, because Caverns and Creatures is the ultimate authority on these things. It has this text: you ward a creature within range against attack. Until the spell ends, any creature who targets the warded creature with an attack or harmful spell must first make a Wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the creature must choose a new target. Or lose the attack or spell. The spell doesn't protect the warded creature from area effects, such as the explosion of a fireball. If the warded creature makes an attack, casts a spell that affects an enemy, or deals damage to another creature, the spell ends. It has no upcast either, which is why it's particularly bad on Warlocks, because you have to upcast it on Warlock. You have Pact Magic. You literally aren't given a choice. You're using whatever the highest level slot is at a given moment, which makes it particularly bad there. Outside of Warlock, when do you cast this? When do you want this? Do you want this? I tend to say no, but I know a lot of people don't agree.
Yeah, I tend to say no unless you're doing some kind of escort mission where the person you're sanctuarying wouldn't be participating anyway.
True.
But the other thing you could do, I guess, is a player character that's doing a lot of support and is willing to spend every turn doing more support. But
so that I am convinced that archetype doesn't exist, and it doesn't exist for good reason. Because fundamentally throwing out buffs round after round after round after round after round, it's just not a thing that D&D supports. The concentration mechanic fundamentally has, like, you do one thing, you put that down, that's your buff, and then you do other things with your action. So even like bards, the most supported of classes, they're going to be doing Vicious Mockery, they're going to be throwing out Bardic Inspiration, but they're also going to be taking some amount of proactive debuffs to hinder enemies. And they can't do that if you put a Sanctuary on them. Then they're just a Bardic Inspiration machine, and a Bardic Inspiration machine isn't a very good player character. The reason Bards can be good and fun is they're really flexible. They do lots of little supportive things all the time. Plus, then we get into the fun argument of, like, well, what quantifies a spell that affects an enemy? Does haste affect enemies because the fighter's kicking their groin in faster? Or is it,
no,
not affecting them directly?
I'm gonna say no on that.
Usually that's the answer, but your DM's interpretation definitely is going to vary. And on top of that, like, that isn't a particularly robust, like, after round one of casting haste, not doing anything deliberately to keep a sanctuary up is not really where you want to be. So I don't think outside of escort quests, which is an encounter I would recommend DMs running more of. I think that's a fun encounter to, like, protect individual from people coming in and attacking them, right? I think
and I already have the answer for that. It's what was it?
Revivify?
Stab them and gentle repose and then revivify. Yes.
Yeah. Which is hilarious. So, like, if we look to then say, this isn't something that I want to cast at the beginning of combat, most encounters, non-escort mission encounters, if we say this is something that I like, okay, I don't really care to use this going into a fight. What about in a fight? What about retreating from a fight? That's where I see the most of the arguments sort of in this thing's favor is, okay, well, the barbarian didn't realize just how in over their head they were getting, and they would like to not be attacking anymore and instead be running. Sanctuary is something you can put down mid-fight that gives them that little barrier, gives them that little shield. And that's where I can see it being its most useful, and I still don't really like it there, just because I would much rather have other disengage tools. I would rather have proactive methods of preventing that encounter from being a lost cause in the first place. Like, I'll take a Misty Step over this basically every single time. And that's on the character that's trying to disengage, right? Like, if you were to cast Sanctuary on yourself. But even if you're trying to get a buddy out of combat, I would much I think I would rather like try and even thunder wave the enemies on top of them back. I'd rather have a healing word ready for whenever they inevitably get beaten to death and have the ability to get them back off 0. All of those things I think I'd prefer over spending an action to try and sanctuary them, just because it's inconsistent. And if they ever want to swing back at something, they can't.
Well, they can. It just, ruins the sanctuary.
Yeah.
Well, that's a gamble they might be willing to make if the tides turn. That
And then you just feel bad for wasting a spell slot and a turn,
that's
right?
first level.
Yeah, but like in the low tiers, that's expensive, and in the upper tiers, it means you're not casting another spell of first level or higher, right? So the cost is not negligible for when you would cast it, right? Healing Word getting someone from 0 actions to actions with Healing Word is a huge impact regardless of tier, and it's often going to be worth the turn. I'm not convinced Sanctuary is always worth the turn. I think a lot of the time I'd rather have a different, more powerful, even like first level effect, like an Inflict Wounds or a lot of other different effects than this.
Well, I mean, if Inflict Wounds is going to make a difference, yeah, use that. If the battle is a lost cause and you're all lucky to be alive right now, maybe 3 of you can get away, but the barbarian, he's down to like his last 3 hit points. Sanctuary, the enemies, he's already pretty fast. He's a barbarian. He's running for his life, but there's still some ranged attackers.
Sure.
I don't know. I'm
I
devil's advocate.
I think that it's the best use case for it, and I think that use case is you're basically putting a spell on your sheet saying, this is on top of Healing Word, right? I don't think you take this if you don't already have Healing Word, because Healing Word is great in those circumstances. That's whenever you would want it, is whenever things are going badly.
Yeah.
That's when you want Healing Word. This is saying things are going so badly that we need to leave. Like, we can't even consider winning this fight. Because if the objective is to try and win the fight, this doesn't do anything then still. Because you get them up, or you put a bubble on them, you say you can't take proactive actions to help us win if you want the defensive options from this. So this has to be a full-fledged retreat. So you want Healing Word and a spell for a full-fledged retreat. And at that point, I'm like, the reason you need a full-fledged retreat is because you don't have enough proactive stuff on your sheet to help win the encounter. Because all of the spells you're taking are for trying to survive whenever things go tits up. And like, I don't think that's a particularly good investment for most characters. I think most characters would be better off taking more proactive actions and letting Healing Word do the job of, things are going south, I can get someone off of 0 so they can keep running. Like in the situation where the barbarian's getting peppered by archers, right? They might miss sometimes anyway. Sometimes the Sanctuary, would deflect one of those hits. But with Healing Word, if they go down, I can get them up at least that time. And that can give them an opportunity to keep running, even through death, even through a stray arrow, getting through the whiz save and hitting the barbarian and downing them. And I think that's probably more valuable in that circumstances anyway.
All right, I've got one. Maybe this is a good one. All right. You're in a fight. The barbarian's there on the front lines. He's got like 5 melee dudes surrounding him.
Okay.
You've gone through 1 round of initiative already, so you know the order. The barbarian's next. The cleric is after him, and then it's the enemy's turn. All 5 guys are going to get a swing at the barbarian.
Mm-hmm.
Barbarian attacks 1 dude. Cleric casts Sanctuary. All the other guys have to make saving throws because the barbarian's the only guy in range to attack for them. So they all either make their saves, or they blow their attacks, or they move somewhere else that's not really where they want to be. Or let me ask you this question. Anyway, I'll finish that thought first. Okay, so they all blow their turns. Barbarian says, you know what? I don't need the Sanctuary anymore. That was fun. Thanks, cleric. Resumes attacking. Now, before you respond to that, do the enemies know that Sanctuary has been cast on your pal?
So I would gauge. It's going to vary from DM to DM. The spell doesn't explicitly state like a protective visible bubble appears. It just simply says you ward a creature within range against attack. So like, I as a DM like to paint pictures with words with spells. So I would inflect that ward is going to be some kind of divine bubble. Like they'll see a magical aura appear briefly over that character. So I would DM it as rule it as a DM. At the same time, it's going to vary from DM to DM. So there may be situations where it is subtle enough that monsters don't notice that it's happened and don't understand why they can't hit it. I still don't know necessarily how much value that adds, but it's something to
I think
consider.
I mean, if they're stupid, they might be like, I want to attack him. Do I really though? I don't know. The next round, yeah, I do. I want to attack. No, I don't know. You know,
Sure. Here's a
it's like a
question.
mind affecting thing.
It's it is a wisdom save, so it's like the weight of unbearable guilt, I guess, is preventing you from hitting them.
I don't know what's wrong with me. This has never happened to me before.
I swear this never happens.
Yeah.
I'm very much thinking like, okay, in this situation that you've painted, would you rather have +2 AC or would you rather have Sanctuary on?
In that situation,
Yeah.
that very, very specific situation, I think I'd rather have Sanctuary.
Would you rather have Sanctuary for 1 round or +2 AC for 2 or more rounds?
No, I think I'd still rather Sanctuary because, all right, well, it depends on how many more.
A full minute's worth, or better yet, a full 10 minutes worth. Because Shield of Faith is +2 AC at a 60-foot range with a bonus action cast time, and you can still hit things. Nothing's going to stop you in a Shield of Faith from bashing something skulls in. And you still get the +2 AC, which is still blocking less hits on average. It depends, but usually less hits on average than a Sanctuary, but still blocking some amount of hits.
Yeah, maybe. But I still do like the little situation I just conjured up in my mind.
The specific instance where you want exactly 1 round of 4 creatures having having the inability to attack you sometimes. And it's not even I said disadvantage. They make a whiz save or nothing happens is what the result is. And if you're next to somebody else, that doesn't work at all. So we're in this one narrative situation.
Oh yeah, I took that into account.
And there's also the opportunity cost of like, me as the cleric on this turn, I don't really care to take a meaningful action outside of keeping the barbarian alive a little bit longer, so I'll sanctuary them. You're not casting a guiding bolt. You're not even blessing the team for +D4 to hits. Like, you're just for this round
making 5 guys blow their turns is a meaningful action.
It isn't necessarily blowing their turns. It's the potential to blow their turns.
Yes.
Sure. And again, that's in the situation where initiative is stacked in such a way that the barbarian isn't going immediately after you, and then this has no text. Because if the barbarian goes immediately after you, this has no text.
I said this is a very niche, very specific set of circumstances.
And I will give you that in that niche set of circumstances, that seems fine.
But you can't really prepare for that.
Yeah, I don't prepare spells for that one instance where the 2% of encounters where that exact magical circumstance lines up and they don't have other creatures they want to attack, or they don't decide to go attack other people.
That's kind of generous of you, I think.
You might be right. I think Sanctuary doesn't line up well against what this game is fundamentally trying to be doing. I think it's a neat effect. I like that it doesn't have concentration, and I'm not saying it's uncastable. I just think that it's too niche that most characters won't need it. If you get this as a domain spell, if you get this as an oath spell, I think I'm a little bit higher on it because those niche circumstances will feel really good when they come up. You'll be like, oh, I actually have a neat little thing for this. Sanctuary. You're hopefully not going to die anymore because you're, at 6 hit points and we need things to not hit you at all. That can be cute. And again, not taking concentration means you can have this and your haste up, have this and your Shield of Faith up if you wanted to do both. Sure, why not? That could be cute. And on those characters, I'm like, yeah, this is fine to exist there, again, except for Genie, because you don't want to ever have to spend a 4th level spell slot on this. That's not where you should ever have to be. Poor Warlocks. Anyway, yeah, if you get this for free, I'm a lot higher on it. If you don't get this for free, I don't think I want to prepare it. And that puts
my
it
opinion
territory.
My opinion on this is weighted heavily by the DM's interpretation of what we discussed earlier.
How much does that matter?
It matters a lot to me because if, like I said, and I guess it depends on how intelligent your enemy is. If a creature keeps thinking about attacking me, then deciding not to, but is not sure why, that's not only beneficial to me, but it's fun to watch the torment in its mind.
If you're next to an ally, they just go, I'd rather hit that one instead, and there's no real mental anguish there, right?
If you're next to an ally. I mean, like, I'm thinking about setting this up. All right, barbarian, go
Are
run
we-
in front of those 5 dudes over there.
And we're gonna just hope this works out, where you'll get a sanctuary, and then by the grace of initiative, sometimes you're not gonna get your ass beat. That does not seem like be like where I would want to be. It also, like, if things are aware that you're casting it, which they're going to be a lot of the time, I would guess more tables than not will have some kind of spell effect to be readily apparent that you're shielded by some nature. And then again, if you decide to take any harmful action, the spell ends outright, which means you have to just kind of like stand there and be like, heh, hit me. And then they have a round of mental anguish. And then you go, well, I want them to do that again. Hit me. And you're just wasting
You
turns
don't
of
want them to
everyone's
do it
time.
again. You just let them all do it the first time, and then but then there's no anguish.
Then there's no
repeated
anguish.
Yeah.
Yeah. That defeats the whole point of the spell for this specific example that you're painting, right?
Yeah.
Like, as a spell to bully kids, this isn't doing a very good job of it unless you're opting to just demoralize them instead of actually try to win a fight.
Well, you can do that eventually.
You can, if your prerogative is to demoralize and not win a fight, you could just like put this on a paladin with an AC of like 28 or whatever, have them walk into the middle of the crowded demon street and go, none of you can hit me, and just mock them as they try and fail. Well, that could be where you're at.
They're not going to fail forever.
They'll fail for a good number of rounds with an AC 28 paladin. Especially with a sanctuary stacked on top of that with like a DC 1920. Yeah, you'll mock some demons for a good while with that outcome.
All right, well, that's good enough for
Is it? Is that good enough for a 3? I don't think it is. Oh, I really don't.
Yeah, I was about to say good enough for a 3, but I thought 3 is pretty freaking good for this. All right, yeah, 2 sounds about right. Oh, all right. Well, I think we covered that pretty well. I'm sure we'll get some comments. You know, like you said, this is kind of a popular spell. People got some positive opinions on it. Well, we would love to hear them. So leave us a comment down in the comment section. That was Sanctuary. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it, a gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns and Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.